gas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Gas, All Georgia Sports. I'm so glad to be back. It's been a little while since I've dropped an episode for you guys. I am sorry about that. For what it's worth, for 3 weeks straight, I've literally either been out of town or sick. And I got sick like 3 times. I think the last episode that I recorded, I was actually mentioning that I wasn't feeling great. So that just kind of didn't stop. But, it is what it is. It's life. And I'm here now. And we're back. And I'm really excited to be back. And we have plenty to discuss. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. So I'm going to do a shorter Braves episode and a shorter Falcons episode. Going to release them both on the same day, and hopefully you can enjoy them this week leading into the weekend. I'm going out of town again, actually, from Friday to next Wednesday, but then I'm back for a while. So we'll get back on schedule. We'll get back to doing what we do. But we have some Braves baseball to discuss. And actually, before I even discuss anything Braves, I just want to give a little shout out to Mets Nation. You had a good year. You had a lot to get excited about, and I talked a lot of trash. If you remember correctly, I referenced plenty of times at how the Mets just blow it. It's all they do. It's all they know how to do. They were born to blow it. Their knees are calloused from blowing it so much. It's in their nature. It's the scorpion and the toad. And sure enough, the Mets blew it, and I just couldn't be happier about it. I mean, I really do enjoy seeing them lose. Their fans were really giving me a hard time this year because we posted, plenty of videos on TikTok, especially about, just what I think about the Mets. And sure enough, I mean, and look, I got nervous there. I mean, toward the last few weeks of the year, if you remember correctly, I kind of changed my tone a bit to go, okay, let's chill on the Mets hate for a while and give them the respect that they deserve. But man, in the last week of the season, you give up the division lead, and then you lose the wild card. Just boom, just like that. It's crazy how the tables can turn. And, we'll see you in April. Better luck next year. And I don't know what to say about that. I guess draft better. Just get better from the top down. I mean, you bring in all these great free agents, and they're good signings. You got some good players, but man, I don't know. How do you fix that? I don't know what the answer is there, but God, they came close. So, maybe they'll figure it out next year and take that next step. I mean, the Braves were certainly in that position, 5 years ago, where they kind of were like, they were flirting with the playoffs, and it started, you didn't expect them to do much. So when they made it, it was just really exciting. And each year it was like, okay, the Braves actually grew with our expectations, which is pretty cool because it doesn't always work like that. A lot of times you have a good year and then you don't have a good year, and then you have a good year and you don't have a good year. So your expectations rise and the team doesn't rise with them. But the Braves just kept getting better as our hype for them grew. And so, man, just so grateful to be a Braves fan. And, I might be more grateful not to be a Mets fan, to tell you the truth. Especially grateful not to be a Saints fan, not because the Saints haven't been a good football team, but just because I think that the existence of a Saints fan is a miserable one. So happy that I'm not them, happy that I'm not a Met, and I am happy to be a Bravo today. So it is Thursday, October 13th, and the Braves just tied up the series with the Phillies. It's 1-1. And, I guess, how do you guys feel about the Braves right now? I mean, just generally speaking, what's your feeling with this team now that we're here, now that it's October? How does your feeling about this team compare to what your feeling about last year's team was? Because I don't know what it was. I mean, and this is easy for me to say now, but I do remember last year, I felt like the Braves were a lot more dangerous going into the playoffs than I do this year. And who knows, maybe it's just playoff angst where I'm like, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But last year when they were going into the playoffs, I remember having a talk with a buddy of mine, and I'm really trying to get myself into that place of where I was at last year because they won the World Series. So it's easy for me to talk shit now and say, I called it the whole time. That's not the case. It's just going into the playoffs last year, I remember we got hot. We came back from such a it wasn't from as big of a deficit as this year, but we looked so horrible. And the fact that we managed to turn it around, it almost like the way they started last season, my expectations were out the window. So by the time they made it, it felt like we were kind of had that nothing to lose thing going on. And so when they got hot, it was just like, it just felt really exciting. And now, you know, they came back from as many games as they did. And I just like, I don't know. I feel a little more nervous about this team this year. I don't know why. I don't have a whole lot of depth to give you as to why that is. So I'm not going to harp on this too much. But just curious, like, do you guys agree with that? Do you guys agree that you feel a little more anxious about this team this year going into the playoffs than last year? And maybe it's just because we do have the expectation now. We have the World Series now. So now it's not like we have nothing to lose. We literally have the crown to lose. We have everything to lose right now because we are the champions. So, maybe that's it. But yeah, it's just, yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're here. We're in October, so now we're all along for the ride. So let's go Braves. But quick bone to pick with the scheduling department. Why are all of the games in the NLDS in the middle of the day and in the middle of the week? I mean, yesterday was at what, like 1 o'clock. Today was, first pitch was set for like 4:37, and we got delayed. Thank God, because I was able to watch it like a normal game. I was working today. If it wasn't for the rain delay, I'd be having to like pull up my Hulu app on my phone and shout out Hulu. I'm not sponsored, but there you go. I'd be listening to the radio on my way home from work, and then I'd have to catch, maybe like the fifth inning on when I finally got home. Like, that sucks. And then, just to give you an idea, this isn't just the first two games. Like, and many of you guys know this already, but just to, help me bitch a little bit here. Yeah, first game was at like 1. Today was supposed to be like 4:30. Friday's game in Philly, first pitch is at 4:37. Then the game 4 is at 2:07 p.m. Game 5, if needed, is at 4:37 p.m. So yeah, what's up with this? It's the playoffs, and you're gonna give us these whack ass start times. I don't get that. I don't understand it. Maybe they just have a lot of games to fill in the schedule because all the playoff games are right now. So maybe it's like they start early with the East Coast games, so that way you can still catch the West Coast games in like prime time. Like, maybe that's ultimately how you get the most viewership. I'm not sure, but total bummer though. I hate that. And there's been a few times this year where they've done that. So, whatever. I'm not gonna keep being Larry David here, but totally just surprised to see that. So it's got to just be a volume thing. I don't know how else they're going to get that many games in front of people. But anyways, game 1, before I get into game 2, let's go chronologically here. Game 1, we lose 7-6. And this game was tough, especially for Max Fried. Max Fried, who's our guy. He remember he won us the World Series. He's the dude, and he had a rough outing on Tuesday. He went 3 innings, gave up 8 hits, 4 earned runs, and then Jesse Chavez came in to relieve I guess that was in the 4th inning. But yeah, Fried got shelled. There's no other way to put it. Jesse Chavez came in, gave us an inning, gave up a run, and then the rest of our guys did okay. But yeah, it was just a rough start. It was hard. It's hard to get out from under when you give up that many runs that early in the game, and we just did. I mean, from the get-go, I think it was like, oh man, what's the actual score by inning here? Yeah, it was 2-0 after the first, then it was 2-1, but then it was 4-1, then 6-1, and then 7-1. So it was like, it was just kind of, it got out of hand quick. And, we had the game 7-3 going into the bottom of the 9th, and we got some momentum. And then Matt Olson, who, by the way, has been an absolute stud for these last couple weeks. They were showing his stats over the last 2 weeks. He's hitting over 400. He's got an insane number of RBIs during that stretch. I don't know if it was like 14 RBIs or something. But he's been outstanding. Matt Olson has gotten hot at just the right time. And I was thinking today, too, watching him, I'm like, for a lot of these guys, like Matt Olson came up to the plate on Wednesday night's game, and the tomahawk chop was just loud as shit in Truist Park. And I'm like, this guy grew up here. Dansby Swanson grew up here. These guys are Braves fans. Michael Harris, the same thing. Like, so many of these guys are Georgia guys. And to get to be in the stadium while the tomahawk chop is just pumping. and you're up to the plate and you're playing in the playoffs. You're playing in that Braves uniform that you grew up watching. I mean, that's incredible. That's just so cool for those guys. I couldn't imagine how that must feel. So just like, I don't know, I just got happy for him. But in game one, Olson comes up with a huge home run in the bottom of the ninth, and it's a 3-run homer to dead center, and there was one out, and completely got us back into the game. I think it was Contreras that was up after that, and he kind of slaps a ball to right field, and it was going to drop, and Castellanos made an incredible catch, a diving, sliding catch, and I think that's what won the game for him, because, I mean, imagine if that drops, there's one out, and now d'Arnaud's the winning run coming up to the plate, and I'm a huge d'Arnaud fan, by the way. The last 2 years have made me really, really like this guy. He just, I don't know, you kind of read people's vibe. He seems like he has a lot of confidence, and he's just locked in every time he plays. And so he ended up being the last out. But imagine if Castellanos didn't make that catch. All of a sudden now d'Arnaud, the crowd's still roaring. They're pumping. They're getting crazy. They're keeping the volume up. And now d'Arnaud's the winning run with one out, as opposed to the crowd getting a little quiet. Great catch by the Phillies. And then d'Arnaud's the last out, and he's just a tying run. Those things matter. And so I think Castellanos saved that game for the Phillies with that catch. It really was a great play by him, and a ballsy play, because imagine if he decides to go for that catch and misses it. I mean, that's a disaster. That's an implosion at that point, because, Contreras is at least getting the second on that kind of a play, maybe the third, because he really had to lay out for it. And that's kind of in that split second, you have to go, okay, do I dive or play on the hop? And so, hats off to him for making that catch, saved the game for them. They go up 1-0. But in game two, this was a tense game. It was tense all the way through 6 innings. I'm going to pull up some stats here for you guys, but Kyle Wright looked fantastic. He gives up, I want to say he only had 2 hits in this entire game. Let's take a look at the exact numbers here. 3 hits total for the Phillies, and Kyle Wright gave up 2 of them. So yeah, gave up 2 hits all game, had 6 Ks, and credit to Zach Wheeler too, because he goes 6 innings, only gives up 4 hits. However, he gives up 3 earned runs, and this game was crazy, because up to the 6th inning, it was like nail bite status. Like, my wife was getting bored, and anytime my wife gets bored, I get more excited, because I don't know about you guys, but like a 0-0 game doesn't bore me, because every single inning, the tension just gets higher and higher and higher. And so, when you go into the 6th, 7th inning and it's 0-0, every pitch, it just starts to feel just so intense. Every walk, every hit, every play, it's just, there's so much on the line, as opposed to these really high-scoring games. I love the low-scoring ones, but, Wheeler and Wright were both dealing, and the turning point in this game was 100% Dansby Swanson's catch. Dansby Swanson made a catch where it was like, it was in no man's land. It was in the top of the 6th, and this got us out of the 6th, and it was like, it wasn't even an over-the-shoulder. It was an over-the-shoulders, like both shoulders catch, where it's like you had to like completely kind of turn your body away from the ball, look up, and he dives to make this play. Well, one of the best catches I've seen him make all year. And, look, I said this in a clip that we're going to post, but we've got to sign this guy. Dansby Swanson needs to get extended. If he becomes a Los Angeles Dodger in the offseason, I'm going to just eat glass, because that would suck so bad. But he's become such a foundational piece to this team, in my opinion. Like, he's clutch. He's, he's the homegrown kid. He's got the story. We've got a lot of those guys, but Swanson has kind of had that story for a long time now, and he's kind of finally emerged into what I think is an elite shortstop in this league. He's been that way defensively for a long time, but his bat came alive this season, and it's not just the catch that he made that speaks volumes about how he's playing, but it's when he made it. Because the game was still 0-0 at that point. And then the very next inning, Acuna gets plunked, which was a scary moment, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. But then right after that, I think Swanson walked right after that. And then Matt Olson, of course, hits the go-ahead run. He gets a base hit to right field, scores, the first run. And then we kind of take off in that 6th inning, and we don't look back. So that catch sparked the rally that we had that won us the game. So, absolute turning point in that game was Swanson's catch. Austin Riley made another phenomenal catch in this game. It honestly rivals Swanson's catch as far as just skill level and, epicness. But yeah, Dansby Swanson came up huge there. So, right after he makes that catch, we go up to the plate, and Acuna gets hit on his right elbow, and he was down for a long time. Like and when you look at the replay, it's like, I don't know if it was like his funny bone or something, but like it just didn't look fun. And you could tell he like couldn't even feel his arm. And the training staff went out there for a while, and they were kind of just like, I don't know, man. They were just, when they're out there with a guy for that long, when Acuna has his head down like that, like, I don't know about you guys, but I was shitting bricks that whole time. When Acuna was like, I was like, dude, there's no way that because I was like, did he break something at that point? Because they were with him for like 5 minutes, which doesn't sound like very long, but like, that's a long time, 5, 10, I don't know how long they were out there, but it was long enough that I think everybody, including the announcers, were starting to think that we might lose Acuna. And who knows what the injury report's going to say. I mean, he finished the game, so that's a good sign. And he looked fine. I think by the time his next at-bat came around, he looked fine. But yeah, that was sketch. So keep your eye on that. I hope Acuna's okay and that he's going to be fine for next game. But yeah, I mean, Olsen comes up clutch, as did some other guys. Darno had another RBI, and Jansen comes out to close out the game. Had an interesting challenge where Darno kind of said, hey, Snitch, and this would have been the last out of the game, and Jansen ends up striking out Harper to end it. But right before that, Darno catches a ball that was popped straight up, and the umpire said that it hit the net, but he put his hand out to touch the net first, and that moved the net, so we're all wondering, okay, did that make the umpire think that he saw the ball hit the net? You know what I mean? And Darno was immediately like, that didn't touch the net, like challenged that, but I don't think that there's any camera angle that could show that definitively. So it didn't take long for them to say, yeah, it stands. Maybe we got it wrong, but that was an interesting point of the game. So anyways, all in all, going into Philly, going into Friday's game, we are tied up 1-1, and the Phillies kind of scare me. I mean, they've got a hell of a lineup. I mean, they got a lot of guys in that lineup that, can do a lot of damage, but their pitching has been on point. They've got a lot of really solid pitchers, and in the postseason, that's what counts. I mean, that's at this point, all the bats that are in the playoffs are pretty much hot. You know what I mean? Like, you've had an entire season to find your swing, and the teams that made it to the playoffs, most of their guys have found their swing at this point in the season. So, now it's pitching. And I'm not sure who's pitching the next game for the Braves. They don't know. It might be Charlie Morton, but he's had a rough year. But, playoffs, you kind of hit the reset button. A lot of the things that happen during the season don't really matter in the play. I mean, think back to Cody Bellinger's home run that won them the NLCS, what was that, 2 years ago? Cody Bellinger's season that year sucked, but he single-handedly sent them to the World Series. Well, at least in that game, in that moment, whatever. But, Charlie Morton, if it is him, I like it. He's got the experience. And even with Charlie Morton's struggles this year, and a lot of the Braves players have this kind of vibe to them, but he doesn't really seem to get shaken. His body language, his mannerisms, everything seems real flat and mellow and consistent. So, that's what you want. At least that's what I would think that one would want in the playoffs. So, let's go Braves. Let's go take one in Philly, and let's put them to sleep. Let's put this to rest. If they could just, hey, shit, win the next two, and then we'll be on to the next. It feels like it's just kind of destined to be another Braves-Dodgers NLCS, and if so, I'm here for it. That'd be awesome. That makes me nervous. That makes me more nervous than the Padres. But, we got to get by the Phillies first, so we'll concentrate on that, but, go Braves. And thanks for listening, and stay tuned, or just click over to the Falcons episode that is also posted, and I hope you enjoy. All right, see you guys.